So we just got back from vacation. Went out to Kentucky. Went out to see the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter. Fantastic. If uh, if you're willing to drop the money on a place like Disney World, you definitely need to go out there. This is really amazing. But so we got back, and the first thing that happens is I start getting phone calls about a school board meeting that happened, I guess, on Wednesday, an informational meeting. So I'm checking out the video feed, and it's pretty crazy. Apparently, a bunch of people came out to talk about the the mask mandate. The governor here in Pennsylvania, for those of you who are out of state watching this, the governor here in Pennsylvania has reinstated a mask mandate for the schools. Um, that the schools have to have masks. Students have to wear masks in the public schools, and there's a lot of people upset about it. Of course, the science on it is less than less than uniform. There are some who are adamant that it is necessary and helpful, and there are many who are adamant that it is not. And of course, um, as with anything nowadays, when it gets political, depending on which side of the political spectrum you land, has a lot to do with whose evidence you prefer. Unfortunately, that's not really how science works, and but it is how politics work. When you have an issue that is a hot topic kind of issue like this, it's really easy to try and say, hey, listen, my expert's smarter than your expert, or my experts are greater in number than your experts, or your experts aren't legitimate. And that's just not, again, that's not how science works. You have to look at the actual science. And this whole pandemic thing reflects that, as much as this whole cultural moment in the United States of America reflects that. Unfortunately, the the feeling of powerlessness has a tendency to provoke some of the worst behaviors in people. And so at this meeting, a lot of people showed up wanting to say their piece, and they did, but they did it in a horrible way. There's a lot of name calling. There's a lot of character assassination, a lot of personal slights, um, what is referred to as ad hominem attacks, when your argument isn't good enough to convince your opponent, or when you're not smart enough to know how to convince your opponent or the people watching, you just attack them personally. And in the kind of mob mentality that has become common nowadays, when you attack them personally, everybody else loves you for it. What I find frustrating about this is that most of the people who were at this meeting who were angry about the masks are the same people who are angry about cancel culture on online and with social media. And yet, it is the mob mindset that drives cancel culture, and the mob mindset that drives people who feel powerless to say things that they shouldn't say, because they are egged on, they are cheered on by those who also feel powerless and also want to hear it. That's unfortunate. There's so much to this. Like I don't know if people understand, but when the government puts out a mandate, right or wrong, it's not really within the local authorities' power to resist that mandate without there being consequences. For instance, I serve on the Hyde Park Borough Board, right? And the EPA of the state EPA put out regulations about burning. They didn't say, would you like to adopt these regulations? They said, you will adopt these regulations. So it just is what it is. The mask mandate comes down from the state. The school board doesn't actually get a say in it. It doesn't matter how much evidence you can put to the school board, they don't get a say. And to say that they could resist said mask mandate is also something of a misnomer. I mean, they could theoretically, but when the insurance company says you will enforce said mask mandate, or we will drop you as an insured school district, well, that changes the game quite a bit. When the state says you will enforce this or you'll lose funding, that changes the game a little bit. I mean, how many parents do you think who were there at this meeting realized that if they got what they wanted, a school board that resisted the state, that they might also end up with a school district that had no teachers because they couldn't pay the budget? There's a lot of complexity to these issues that cannot simply be reduced down to, I don't like this decision, you should change it. My expert says it's bad, you need to resist. And the thing is that the place where these decisions are most done is Harrisburg, right? So if you really feel this strongly, maybe you need to go to Harrisburg. Maybe you need to go to Harrisburg and have a conversation with the legislature down there. Maybe you need to do one step further. Maybe you need to run for political office, and you need to go be a part of the conversations where the conversations are actually happening. There are far too many people who like to say that they are concerned about things when it inconveniences them. But the idea of inconveniencing themselves to actually have a voice when and where it really matters, that's too much of an inconvenience. So much of this is about inconvenience. It's not about safety. It's not about security. It's not about caring for the community. And I know that's a harsh statement to make, but let me tell you how I know that. Because if it was about the community, and if it was about being helpful, then we would do it with love in our hearts. We would do it with compassion and concern. We would do it recognizing that at a local level, these are our neighbors. These are our neighbors. These are the people we live by and we live with and we do business with and we interact with. And if we can't have a disagreement in a civil manner, if we can't have a dialogue about a disagreement in a civil manner and come away saying, yes, we disagree, but we talked about it and we understand each other. And we'll move forward this conversation to the place where we can actually accomplish something. If we can't do that, then it's all for nothing. But I think the thing that bothers me the most out of all of this, is that many people who are angry, and many of the people who showed up at this meeting who were angry, coupled with their anger, their conservative beliefs politically, and their professed Christian beliefs. Now, first, conservative. Definitionally, conservatives are supposed to be concerned with rule of law. If you allow yourself to get caught up in the hyperbole, in the gross excesses of a mob mentality, that's not conservatism. But more importantly, if you are a Christian and you believe that we are supposed to model the life and the mindset and the character of Christ in all of our interactions, then that means speaking truth in love. I love Ben Shapiro, and I love his little motto, his tag: facts don't care about your feelings. He's right. Facts are not concerned with your feelings. But you know what? People have feelings. And Christians should be concerned with people's feelings. Not at the expense of facts, but alongside of facts. So have the conversation, but recognize that you're talking to a human being and treat them with the dignity that you want to be treated with, because that is what Jesus said. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Speak to them in the tone of voice you want them to speak to you in. Say your piece and hear them say their piece. Hear them when they speak to you. Extend the grace of listening and come to an understanding. If you know any of the people who sit on our school board at the Kiski area, if you know them personally, tell them you love them, even if you disagree with them. If you're on the school board and you happen to see this, know that there are those of us out here who are praying for you, because you have a hard position, and it's made that much harder by the current political climate. And if you went to that meeting and you were a part of it, think really, really long and hard about whether or not the things said on Wednesday night were things that actually furthered your true goals. Because I suspect that no matter how right you may have been, you probably cut the ground out from underneath your feet because of the way you said it. And that's frustrating and sad. Because there's a lot to be said. There's a lot that needs to be heard. But people won't hear it if you're burning your bridges before you even get there. So that's what I'm thinking about today. Talk to you soon.